All right, good afternoon, everyone. I've been doing programs like these on Facebook Live, and I was just a little bit dissatisfied with how I was able to share information with you. So I've decided to go ahead and kind of start up this series that I'm naming The Truth About Bugs. I'm going to be posting these videos on our Facebook page and on my YouTube channel for everyone to look at, and I'll share the links to those in the comments of this video. So just to introduce myself, my name is Bob Bruner. I am the Purdue Extension A&R Extension Educator in Clay and Owen counties. I'm also an entomologist. I've been an entomologist for about 11 years now. One of the things that I often encounter as an entomologist is there is a lot of fear and misinformation about insects. And one of the things that I hope that this little series will do is help clear up some of that and focus on insects you may be concerned about as our summer marches forward. Now, one of the first things that I want to say is that insects have all kinds of different names. And you have undoubtedly been hearing in the news lately a lot about the so-called murder hornet. I've seen innumerable posts on social media and in other forms of news agencies and so on, where they have been talking about this horrifying insect that's come here from Asia. And what I want to do in the next few minutes is hopefully dispel a little bit of that rumor and talk about what this insect is actually going to look like should we ever see it in Indiana. So to start with the name, we as entomologists refer to this as Vespa mandarinia. Now this insect is, like I said, from Asia. It is an invasive species. We have only found a few instances of it in the United States, and it is not clear that it is actually going to spread in the United States. This insect has several different common names that you may hear referred to other than murder hornet. Here are a few examples of that. Asian giant hornet, Japanese hornet, sometimes I've heard it referred to as a sparrow hornet or a sparrow wasp. These are all common names that people refer to them. Generally, they're talking about the same thing, but due to the fact that there are so many common names is why we like to refer back to its scientific name so that we know that we're all talking about the same thing. Now, this insect, like I said, is not native here. Our environment hasn't evolved defenses against their presence, and those behaviors that they have will have an impact. So let's just go over very briefly how this insect lives and what it will do. It is a predator. It will attack honeybees, such as the European honeybees that we have in our hives, and potentially native honeybees that we have in other places. These insects are very, very efficient at what they do. It only takes a few hornets to decimate a hive or a wild swarm. What they do is they will use adult and immature insects as a food source for their own broods. They'll make a nest at ground level, just like a yellowjacket would, and when they go hunting, they will bring back normally the thorax, the middle portion of a honeybee, back to the nest because that's the part that's packed with all the muscle and protein to feed to their young. These insects also have a unique quality we refer to as the slaughter phase. Scientists have found that when 3 or more of these insects gather together, sometimes they'll enter what they refer to as the slaughter phase, where they will just indiscriminately attack all the honeybees in the hive and kill all of them, completely decimating the hive. And keep in mind, these insects don't need that much food in order to survive and produce good young. It's most likely come out of their predatory behaviors and continue evolving as a good hunting strategy, or at least one that's been selected for. Unfortunately, what this means is that honeybee hives and native bee hives will be at risk from them. Now, in their native area, the bees present there have already evolved a defense behavior against the Asian giant hornet. What they'll do is they will cover the hornet with their own bodies and then begin to buzz their wings rapidly. And what this does is they generate a huge amount of heat and essentially microwave the Asian giant hornet until it's dead. Our native bees and our European honeybees that we have in the United States have not yet evolved any kind of defense mechanism to them. Normally, when hives are threatened, some of the workers will leave the hive to take on their attackers. But the Asian giant hornet can grow up to 2 inches in length, whereas your average honeybee is about maybe ½ an inch. There is no contest there. The hornet will win. So you can see why this can be a significant threat to beekeepers and just native bee populations. Now, one of the big things that I wanted to address today is that I've gotten a lot of contact from people recently concerning that they may have found this insect on their own property. And I just want to try to do a little bit of myth busting first. I can virtually guarantee that no one in the state of Indiana has found the Asian giant hornet. Right now, there are a few localized colonies in Washington state, and I think one or two other places that are usually coastal. We have not discovered any here in Indiana. The key thing is to understand the differences between the insects that are going to look similar to it. And I'm going to go over those differences just briefly so you can be a little bit better prepared. So this picture here is of the Asian giant hornet. And you can see that it has a bright yellow or orange head. It has a black abdomen with kind of black wings. A black thorax with kind of black wings, and an abdomen that is banded yellow and black. It's also very, very large. This insect will stand out to you. It's like someone driving a Winnebago through the air. If we look at something that's similar to it, like a cicada killer wasp, and I apologize for the picture low resolution, you can kind of see that the cicada killer has a different type of banding on its abdomen. It'll also look a little bit different. The head won't be that bright orange. And cicada killers are also solitary. You'll only ever see one in the air. The other thing that you can also keep in mind is that if there are cicadas out, you know that there will be cicada killers. If you don't hear cicadas buzzing, you probably won't see a cicada killer. So keep that in mind. If we look at one of our native hornet species, and I use that term a little bit loosely because this is the European hornet, it is not quite as large as the Asian giant hornet. These get maybe up to 1.5 inches in length. And if you look at their abdomen, you can see kind of teardrop black shapes as you move further down the abdomen. Their head also lacks that bright color, and their body is just a little bit more solid looking, at least from my eyes. And I guarantee you, probably the most common hornet you will see is going to be this European hornet. These are similar in behavior in some ways to the Asian giant hornet, but they don't have any of the behaviors where they'll just decimate a beehive or anything like that. Now, the Yellowjacket that you're seeing here, this is another wasp that is very common throughout Indiana, and I mentioned earlier that it makes ground nests just like the Asian giant hornet. But you can see that this insect is a little bit brighter in its yellow. The yellows will stand out. It lacks the banding on its abdomen. It's kind of just these shapes, a little bit teardrop-like or triangular shapes on the abdomen. And when you see them in the air, they're also just going to be smaller. They won't be nearly as large. Now, one of the things that we often address when it comes to insects like this is their capacity to sting us. And when it comes to yellowjackets, I always warn people, don't mess with yellowjackets. They will very readily sting a person, and then all of the yellowjackets nearby will try to come after you because it's a defensive behavior they have. Asian giant hornets generally won't try to sting someone. They are very loath to sting you. They're capable of doing so, and they won't die from stinging you like a honeybee would. They also have a larger venom load just because they are a larger insect. So if you are allergic to the venom of a bee or a wasp, this could represent a threat to you. But so far, I found no information that indicates that they represent a greater threat and that their venom is somehow more lethal or anything like that. You just get a bigger dose, and anecdotally, I've seen stories where the sting is described as very, very painful. So you'll just want to avoid them. If you think you have seen one, what I want you to do is contact me at this email address, rfbruner@purdue.edu. I can help you get into contact with different agencies that handle invasive species, and it'll help us just keep our eyes open for a potentially new invasive species that's entering our state. While I believe it is unlikely that we will see this anytime soon, the best thing that we can do is remain vigilant, watch out for this insect, and make sure that we're protecting our beehives. We've also added in some photo credits there for you to look at, just to make sure that people get the right credit who took those beautiful pictures that I just showed you. And with that, I want to bid you all a good afternoon, and please feel free to contact me. We will be doing this again next week, and we're going to be talking about mosquitoes. Thank you.